We will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with justice for all. Okay, Commissioner Schrumpf is here electronically, so we will be doing all of the votes by roll call today. The first item on the agenda is the bid opening for property at 709 North State Road 5, Larwill.
We've received one bid in the office so far.
What was the deadline on that? Just curious.
12:30 today.
Today, okay. Okay. Okay, so we got one bid from Tim Amoyer, and it is for $6,500, along with his certificate of liability insurance.
Has there been any contact with the homeowner? Well, I appreciate him coming. Is there any way we can have him come forward? I don't recall his name. Ralph. Ralph, is there any way you could come forward? I'd love to hear from you on this. I'm sorry? Yeah, would you recognize Ralph Fitch?
I'll recognize you. Please go ahead and state your name and your address up here at the first chair.
Ralph, I'm Commissioner Banks. This is Commissioner Green. I just thought if you're here today, why not have you come up? Do you understand what we're doing today, the bid process with the tear down or destruction of the property?
I'm just trying to see if I could save the building and use it yet.
So go ahead and state your name and your address.
Ralph Fitch, 7329 West Division Road, Larwill, Indiana. But yeah, I'd like to keep the building a while longer.
So you understand the reason that we took bids to have the building demolished, right?
Oh, I haven't studied anything about it.
So you didn't have any knowledge that we were moving through this process?
What's wrong with it?
Well, that'd be a great question for these guys right here. But I think we've had a lot of attempts, at least in communication, right?
Craig, could you come up here and I'm sorry, take this microphone just so we can get it all on the minutes. Thank you.
Yes, we sent multiple letters, registered and first class. Also put it in a newspaper as required by state law. 2 separate newspapers at 2 different dates.
And this has been going on since what year?
We started on the actual action this year because of the notification by the Whitley County Health Department of the unlivable conditions in the house.
Okay. And from my understanding, we've had issues with other properties that this gentleman's owned over the years as well.
I hesitate to answer that because that really isn't pertaining to this one particular house.
Okay,
Yeah.
but you did everything that you were legally supposed to?
Yes, and there had been a history in the past of issues with residents and a lot of junk and trash around there, which had cleaned up a couple times and which has been cleaned up again. But the house had been reported to have several fires on the inside, ceilings falling, poor windows, those kind of things need to
That
be
car was
replaced.
like 30 years ago.
I'm just saying what was reported to us.
You've been in there playing since then.
We just started the action because one of the things on the unsafe building order is if the Whitley County Health Department determines it to be unsafe to live in, it's an unsafe structure.
Okay. And if I remember correctly, the first time that we officially talked about it in a commissioners meeting, was that back in June?
I believe June, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, and I think that we've had an update almost every meeting since then.
Yeah, we've kept you
Okay.
notified, yeah.
And with every process, you've sent all of the notifications
Correct.
that you've needed to.
And we had the hearing.
And we had the
Yeah.
hearing. And then before all of this started, the health department also sent him notifications.
Yes, they've been in the house multiple times.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So Ralph, I mean, you're here today because you'd like to save your building, and I'm all for that. I mean, it's your building. So I would love to be able to help you out. But I think there's a list of things that need to happen inside that building. Otherwise, I'm inclined to go along with accepting a bid to have it torn down. Nathan, you had told us at one point that there were some options here at this meeting. Can you refresh my memory, remind me what those options are?
In short, you did the bid opening, that was what was advertised, and bids, you can take the bids under advisement for a while. You are the hearing authority, so you can continue to work with property owner if you want to, up to, I think, 60 days that they have to take under advisement for bid. That's whatever the normal process is, yeah. So if you feel like you want to work with the property owner, you can. That is your prerogative as the hearing authority. You can reject all bids, you can modify the order. It's really in your court.
So at this point, if we take the bid under advisement and started a clock with Mr. Fitch to say, meet these requirements, then at some point, we've only just taken the bid under advisement. We don't need to move forward if he can meet a list of requirements, right?
Yes.
If he can bring the building up to the standard.
Yeah, either what I would suggest, and Craig, you correct me if I'm wrong here, but as the hearing authority, you can either follow the order as written, which was to demolish. So Mr. Fitch would need to demolish basically on his own. Or he needs to bring it up to code to make it no longer unsafe. And that would be modifying the order. So the order wouldn't be to demolish, it would be to repair.
So at this point, none of those things obviously have happened because Mr. Fitch is just here now and we haven't heard from him before. So would it be correct or would it be proper to take the bid under advisement and not stop that process, but at the same time start a clock for Mr. Fitch to bring it to code? And if he can do that, then at some point we can just dismiss the bid.
Right, or alternatively, you can follow through with the bid.
Right, exactly. So
That's your choice.
who would it be? Craig, would it be you, or would it be you, Scott, who would provide Mr. Finch with a list of things that he would need to complete?
I would provide the property owner with a list of the things that need to be completed to bring the house back into a livable condition. We would also ask for a contract from contractors to see when it's going to be done, and also notification of substantial monetary, what do I want to say, possibility to be able to do those changes.
Are these things that we can give Mr. Finch today and make sure he gets a copy before he leaves the building? So he,
No. I'll have to look at the property.
but we could do that fairly quickly. And Mr. Finch, you're willing to be responsive. You're willing to hear from them and meet with them. And
Yeah, my concern with projects we've had in the past, not with this individual, but with other owners, is a lot of times they ask for time to get it fixed. It doesn't get fixed. It drags on for another year. we still have an unsafe structure there and it has been taken care of. We end up with the bid goes up, costs the county more to have it torn down. So,
I totally understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
but at the same time, no one's living in the home right now, right?
no, it's vacant.
So, I've struggled with this all along because we don't own the home. And
That's correct.
I've always struggled with government going in and tearing something down that doesn't belong to government. So,
Say that too.
um,
We had hearings, Mr. Fitch was notified.
Yep.
Didn't come in for the hearing. So now at the last minute, I'm certainly willing to do whatever the Board of Commissioners asked me to do. We'll give them a list of things that need to be corrected and a reasonable amount of time to get them done.
does that sound reasonable to you?
Yeah, I agree.
So my question is there's been multiple attempts to contact you and now it's the 11th hour and you're just now coming here? So, I mean, why are you coming today and not to any of the other meetings? Because I have multiple departments that are spending time on this and using taxpayer money. And just as my building inspector just said, this price is only going to go up. So
Give me time to get it fixed. We'll fix it.
why are you just now coming today?
So we'll get it done. I'm gonna try to get it done.
Why haven't you been to previous meetings? So I know you got the letter that the demo bids were being opened. So I'm just wondering why you didn't respond to any of the other letters that you have been getting.
I just like to be able to work on the house.
I guess I just really struggle with extending this out. If you can't even give us a valid reason for just now showing up and spending more of my department's time on this.
I don't know what to say.
Personally, I'd like to take the bid under advisement, which would start, it sounds like a 60-day clock, all the while giving Mr. Finch an opportunity to comply and actually come to the table and work with us. And if he can show a plan to get the building to code, then there's no reason to tear it down. But if he can't show us a plan, if he can't show us that he's moving the needle forward, then we still have the bid under advisement that we can accept at a later date and have the building demolished.
So this bid's valid for 60 days. Is that correct? Without it going up?
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Schrumpf, do you have anything to add? Can you hear me? George, can you unmute yourself, please? Thank you.
Oh no, it says it's not connected to audio. Hang on, George.
About now?
There we go. Yep,
Okay.
we can hear you.
Okay, I feel also that if we approve this today, then we've got the 60 days to for us to do some investigation into it. And if nothing is done, then we can go forward with that with either the demolition order or working with our department and making sure that everything is done properly.
Thank you.
So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion that we take the bid under advisement. Also in my motion would include that Mr. Finch work directly with the planning and building department and the health department to swiftly move that building into code. At which case, then we would obviously halt our process for destruction. And if it can't be done, then unfortunately, we'll have to move forward with demolition.
I would second that.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Commissioner Shrum,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Green, no. Thank you.
Ralph, if you'll let house unlocked at 3 o'clock, I'll be out there to take a look at it today. Today. Okay. I'll be back with you by the end of the day tomorrow.
Sounds great.
We'll go ahead and take that bid too. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is our attorney, Matt Shipman.
Good afternoon. The only thing I have to report on is you do have in your packet today, an amendment to the DOT Consortium Third-Party Administrator Agreement with Parkview. And I have reviewed that agreement and it does seem appropriate for adoption. Those are the only items that I have on my radar, unless you guys have other questions for me. So I did look for River Road ordinance as well, and that's also fine, so. Items are both on the agenda later.
I've seen it.
George, do you have any questions for Matt?
No, I do not.
We can move on to the next agenda item, Parkview Occupational Health Agreement, which I believe we've all had a time to look at. Do we have any discussion?
It's my understanding, and therefore, if I'm wrong, you can correct me, but it's my understanding that it's just a cleaning up the agreement that we have. It's not necessarily a contract per se. It's just an agreement that we will pay this amount as we send folks to see rock health. And so I've reviewed it. I've seen this one and compared it with the current agreement. And I feel very comfortable with the changes that are being made. So I would make a motion that we approve the new agreement.
I'd second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Commissioner Shrum,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Green, yes. Can I sign this in George's absence, or does George need to sign it? You want to amend that so I can sign it?
We made a motion recently that when one signature is required by default, then whoever is running the meeting would sign that. So no need to amend.
Next item on the agenda, River Road Ordinance.
So this ordinance is one that we discussed for a little while. Currently, the speed limit is not posted on River Road. It's 55 miles per hour. And it would be very appropriate to reduce that speed limit to 45 miles per hour. And I'm strongly in favor of doing that. I know that Matt had a chance to review the ordinance after last meeting. And as he said earlier in this meeting, he reviewed it and it seems to be fine. I'll make a motion that we approve the ordinance.
Oh, second for discussion.
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, I was just wondering, has Brandon been involved in this at all, or what's his thoughts?
Brandon, can you come up? And I don't actually have the ordinance in my paper packet. There.
No, sorry, I was gonna.
I asked Jana to work on the ordinance based on previous ordinances as far as the wording. As far as the traffic, we have traffic counters that record traffic sizes and speeds and traffic counts. And we had 2 counts done by highway forces and 1 count done by Region 3A. And all 3 of those would justify reducing to 45.
George, did you hear what Brandon said?
Yes, thank you, Brandon.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm ready for the motion.
And it looks like I would need to amend. I need to amend my motion to include approval for ordinance number 2021-11.
I'll amend my motion.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any more discussion? Commissioner Shrump,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Green, yes. Next item on the agenda is a facilities request. That's not my paper. Okay, it looks like we have 3 different requests. One is from Joanne Bird for the Veterans Marathon on the 11th, or I'm sorry, on the 12th and the 13th. From 9 a.m. on the 12th until 3 p.m. on the 13th. The northwest corner. Do we know the northwest corner of what?
Be the courthouse laws.
Okay. It doesn't explicitly say that. Okay.
Commissioner, was that the November 12th and 13th?
Yes.
Do you want to read all 3 and approve them all in one motion, or do you want them approved individually?
We can do them all together unless there's an issue with one of them. My next one is from Jeffrey Herendine for the Columbia City Fire Department on the 24th of December for the Whitley County Courthouse and grounds. So the courthouse is typically closed. George, is that something that we normally do when they, on Christmas
Yes.
Eve?
We normally do that. What they do is they'll hand out candy at that point, and we make sure that it's just the lower level that they deal with. I'm not sure how it's going to be with the new security system, but that might be we might want to talk to Mark and Adam on that before we do anything.
Okay. The third one is from Lee Murgy, Whitley County Community Christmas Celebration for December 3rd and 4th, starting at 5, running 6 to 8 p.m. on both nights. Whitley County Courthouse. George,
It's
is-
also a reoccurring event
reoccurring
every
event.
year, community Christmas on the square. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the veteran marathon event and the community Christmas event.
And I would second those motions.
are we going to table the,
I'll get back to that one.
George, I'm sorry, did you second that?
Yes, I did.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? All right, Commissioner Schrumpf,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Green, yes.
I'd also like to make a motion that we table the December 24th event and allow time for discussion with Mark's Fruit event about access to the courthouse.
Yeah, I'm not against that, but I just think we need to have some discussion also, as Mr. Banks has said.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Commissioner Schrumpf,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Green, yes. Next item on the agenda is Brandon Forrester, Highway Department update.
Last meeting, I presented 2 ordinances. You approved the speed limit ordinance and the other was parking ordinance. I don't know.
The parking ordinance was also approved, and then Matt had a chance to review, and I think I don't want to speak for you, but you're going to go review the ordinances later today just to see what kind of cleanup, if any, we need to do. The thought on that, though, was that the ordinance already existed. We were just then adding Lincoln Way to an existing ordinance that would outline where the fines would go and all of those other concerns the sheriff brought forward.
Yeah, we need to still figure that out. And apparently, from their perspective, there's still an issue with the dog parking ordinance on that. I'm sure the money's going where everybody wants it to, so I'm gonna deal with that.
Okay. We have 2 right-of-way cut permits that are actual open cut permits on hard pavement. So those need to be reviewed and approved by commissioners. One is for NIPSCO for a service, and the other is Tim Freeze as a contractor for individual that has he constructed a pond for them, and as part of that, there was a private drain that came from across the road, and they've determined that they would like to go across the road, pick up that drain and replace it under the road and then dump it into the pond to help feed the pond. So they're both acceptable to me, other than the ordinance was set up for open cuts to be approved by, or reviewed and approved by the commissioners.
So is there anything to physically review, like the applications themselves, or?
Just the
Oh,
application is all it is. I mean, I've reviewed and signed off of, recommended to be to the commissioners. Their commitment is spelled out in the ordinance, or maintain the road surface for 6 months, and you know, it's a new ordinance effective around the first of the year, but we haven't had any problems yet.
I'd make a motion.
Go ahead, George.
I'd make a motion that we approve the 2 road cuts that have been approved by Brandon.
No, second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Commissioner Trump,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Green, yes.
So next on my list, we have the federal aid ADA improvement project, and the scoring has been completed and compiled. And the results were that the way you have to do it is you have 3 team members that score, and for each of the consultants, the scores are combined, and then the highest is the highest score. The highest ranking scoring consultant for this project was American Structure Point. And the next step, Cami actually submitted to the DBE personnel at NDOT to confirm that they met the DBE requirements, which is disadvantaged business entrepreneur enterprise, and they did show compliance with that. So next, Cami and I will be working on, there's a checklist of all of the things, including the request for proposals and all the scoring sheets, and there's a big list of things that we need to compile and then send to NDOT. So we'll hopefully work on that soon. Community crossings, I was hoping to be able to give an update. We have not heard anything on our application. That was submitted around July 30th, so they're taking, I think, a little bit longer this time to announce any results. Hopefully we'll hear something next week. And then the last thing that I have, I had mentioned, say, a month or so ago about annual bids coming up. I've prepared a notice that needs to be published twice. I have, if you so agree, I've set, normally we do this, we open bids on the first Monday of December and then take everything under advisement and then award bids on the 3rd Monday in December. So I've set it up as we've done in the past to have the bids due at 10 o'clock on Monday, December 6th, and the bid opening will begin at 10:30. So if you prefer to approve the notice to bidders is all it is. We're not accepting anything. We're not committing to anything other than we'll commit to make sure that it gets published, and I guess you'd be committing to open bids on that if you so choose.
So this is just to publish.
Correct. The rest of this is the specifications, which, you know, if you want to review, we've got plenty of time for that, and they can be modified. Obviously, they wouldn't need to be finalized until it went into the paper the first time, which I believe will be around December 10th, maybe.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve posting the notice to bidders.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Commissioner Trump,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Green, yes.
Other than that, I had mentioned we were working on placing some stone on the shoulders on Lincoln Way. We completed that project. And we've started working on, drainage, culverts and ditching for roads that are possibly to be improved next year. As I've mentioned in the past, we have a 5-year plan that includes roads next year, next spring, after the freeze thaw and winter, we will reevaluate all the roads and tweak that plan potentially. Ideally, it would stay the same. But so far, that hasn't happened. We continue to brush and berm and grade gravels, those kind of things. So.
Well, thanks for everything that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brandon.
Okay, next item on the agenda is payroll, accounts payable claims approval. I checked everything this morning. I went over all of the transactions and I saw no issues with them.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve both payroll and accounts payable claims.
And I'll second that motion.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Commissioner Schrum,
Yes.
Commissioner Bain,
Yes.
Commissioner Green, yes. Next item is previous.
Sorry. If you remember at the last meeting, we didn't approve accounts payable claims, so I will need the accounts payable claims approved as well, from October 4th.
Right.
So I was thinking that we did contingent upon me going up and physically seeing the,
So we all gave a consensus that we would, but
Okay.
it has to be done with a formal motion. So I'll make a motion that we approve last meeting's accounts payable. Do you have a date on that?
October 4th.
The October 4th accounts payable and claims.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Commissioner Trump,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Green, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so I will still need a motion for today's. Oh, no.
We did the motion for
Okay.
today first.
I'm tired, apparently. Mhm. Has everyone had time to look over the October 4th Commissioner meeting minutes?
Yes.
I'd make a motion that we approve the minutes for October 4th.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Commissioner Trump,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks,
Yes.
Commissioner Green, yes. Matt, do you have anything else to add?
things, the modified precincts, if that was something that we were doing today. Thought I saw it on the agenda at some point and then it wasn't. Is that something you guys decided?
I was going to bring it up.
It is, I didn't look. Here, is there a time limit to get these? And is it prior to the next meeting?
So they've all been submitted to the state because they had to be. So now we would just be ratifying what's been sent in, basically.
So the state has to approve what's been submitted. And so they're projecting that they'll be back at our next meeting to ask us to approve.
What state already approved.
Right.
That was the only thing I had. I just wasn't sure. if it was a deal with that.
Commissioner Banks?
The only thing that I would have is, Jana, is this your final meeting as auditor for the commissioners?
Yes.
So I would just like to say thank you for everything that you've done, for serving Whitley County government. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll miss you.
Thanks, Jana.
Yeah, thanks, George.
George, do you have anything to add?
I do not.
Okay. I've got a couple things. So I went over last year's numbers for the county health insurance. We were actually down 15% overall for the cost, so that's really great. So now we need to basically make a motion to approve them going ahead and getting hard bids on the premiums. The open enrollment period, I believe, will be November 1st through the 12th. And they have to go back 9 months in order to get a hard bid for us. And the period ends in 4 days. So if we do not accept or allow them to go ahead with that, we'll have to redo all of the numbers again, or they will have to look over all the numbers again because the numbers will be too old. And you have to have 9 months of claims to show before anybody will give you a bid. So again, we were down about 15%. So they're not expecting us to have to increase our premiums for our employees, but they're also saying that we shouldn't expect any decrease. But that's better than an increase with all of the inflation and cost of living going up. So
Absolutely. Yeah. So what, you'll need a motion for that, but what specifically would that motion be for, to accept?
yeah. So the packet that you had got. Okay, just a second. Okay, so we were down 15% overall after them looking at their claims, but they didn't know exactly what we were going to want them to ask for. So basically we want the same exact coverage as we had last year. We don't want to accept any more risk, and we also don't want to decrease it. So basically it's just asking for a bid for the same exact services as we received last year.
So what you were provided in the meeting today was not the bid itself. We're just accepting no changes, and we want to bid based on the no changes.
Right, and they gave us the numbers from last year and they're less, so.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we allow them to give us a bid based on no changes. Is that,
Do you want to add HILB since that's the company we use?
Hill?
HILB.
Yeah, so I'll amend my motion to say that we request a bid from HILB based on no changes from 2021. I
I'll
wasn't in the
second.
meeting. Language, does that cover it? So it's the actual renewal.
Yeah,
Okay.
Chad, I think it was the actual renewal numbers that they're asking us to approve.
Yeah, okay, sorry, I'm at a disadvantage because I wasn't part of that meeting this morning. So I will amend my motion to accept the pricing for 2022. right?
Right. And I'd second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Do I have any further discussion? Commissioner Schrum,
Yes.
Commissioner Banks?
Yes.
Commissioner Green? Yes. And then I have one more thing. So we went over the precinct maps at the last meeting, and the only ones that changed were the city, because those were the only precincts that had grown significantly. So obviously to make the numbers equal, so there's the same amount of constituents in each precinct, they had to be shifted. We had just gotten that information that day. However, Jessica Hockemeyer had just gotten it, I think she said the Friday prior, so she didn't have really a whole lot of time to go over it and then send us the information that she had. So since then, I've had a chance to really dig in and to look into how she came up with the different precincts. She used a tool that the state was using to help out with their redistricting, that was really helpful to her. So I saw that. So that was helpful. And then also the county council maps are going to be changing again because there was an increase in constituents in the city of Columbia City. So therefore, those districts, well, all of the districts, I think, but one had to change. And I saw how she came up with those numbers. It was fair, non-biased. So I would make a motion that we accept option 1 for the new county council maps.
So it was my understanding I'm sorry, I'll second for discussion. It was my understanding that when we met with her that she would come back once the state had approved those, and then we would make a motion to approve one. I didn't think we were doing that. I think if we do it today, we're putting the cart in front of the horse, right? Like she has to make sure that that's going to be
No,
approved
because they
from the
only have to
state.
approve the precincts. Commissioners approve council maps and districts. And we need to get that going, especially with the election right around the corner and people wanting to file. And I believe you had the same information and it all, I mean, I don't know, you can speak to what you thought about the
Yeah,
information.
so it was my understanding that the state would accept the proposals, and that elections would be at our next meeting to ask us to approve. That's what I understood from the meeting. Also, I'm not able to, I know I seconded for discussion, but I'm not able to vote for option 1 just based on the greater deviation of 5.3% rather than option 2 having a deviation of 3.13%. So just it's my understanding that we would vote on this next meeting when elections was here, that we would accept one, provide overall approval, and then
Can I see your map?
sure.
Thank
Yeah.
you. So there were 2 different options presented to us. With the current map, is this current? Where's the okay, with the current map, all of Union Township is in District 1. In option 1 that we were presented by Jessica Hockemeyer, Union East and Union West are split. That I agree with. I used to live in Union East. I think that Union East relates more to Smith Township than it does Columbia. So that is why that I make a motion that we approve the option 1, because there's less interest. You have a lot of people in Union West that live in the city that interests are completely different than the people who live in Union East. So that is why, and the deviation's 2% different than option 2. So that is why I went with option 1.
Yep, and my view on it was that currently with option 2, there would be no changes to District 1 and really limited changes to any other districts. Except for either option, District 2 will lose Richland Township, all of Richland. And there's really no way around that, but I just still feel that instead of splitting that Union Township down the middle didn't really make sense to me, but I'd be more in favor of option 2, but I'm not that passionate about it. I just also was under the understanding that we were doing this at the next meeting.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. But again, I think that Union West and Union East have different needs. And with that being my district, I would like to see people as accurately represented as possible. And I think that there would be less conflict with whatever councilman took that over. So, George, do you have anything to add to that discussion?
No, not really. I hadn't really taken a look at that recently because of the fact that I thought we were going to present that in the next meeting also. So not really, don't have anything at this point.
Okay. Is there anything from the public?
I'm sorry, you have a motion and a second, so we either need to go to a
Did he
vote.
second it?
I
George?
seconded for discussion.
Okay.
Yes, I
Made the
That was
motion,
way
I
back.
seconded for discussion.
Okay.
I think personally that it should be withdrawn, but that would come from you because you made the motion.
I'll withdraw the motion and we will vote on it at the November 1st meeting.
I'll withdraw my
George.
second.
But George didn't second. I'll withdraw my second.
Do I have anything from the public or would anyone like to come up and speak? Okay. All right, we'll adjourn. Thank you all for coming.